Hello everyone, I am Kalya Blidyaki and I am a Design Journey art class expert for drawing with watercolors and inks while creating paintings and illustrations inspired by nature and the beauty around us. In this session, I'm going to focus on something that I really enjoy using in my art, and this is creating and mixing colors that look more natural. I am a huge fan of using earthy tones and muted colors because in my eyes they just elevate every painting and it makes it look more real life looking. But I always admire other artists that they can use vibrant colors in a successful way. So this will be how I mix muted colors and more specifically how I mix really nice earthy toned greens and use them to create a beautiful leaf illustration. The materials we're going to use are the 24 watercolor paints from the Design Journey assortment and the brush set. Of course, once again, to follow up all the exercises and prepare our sketches, we're going to use a pencil, an eraser and sharpener, and this set has everything you may need. Also, the paper is A5 size watercolor cold pressed 300 GSM. As always, any color mixing starts from me taking out all the watercolor paints I have in my hands and choosing the ones I feel fit best with what I want to do. So in this case, I started looking at all the greens the Staedtler 24 set has, and after looking everything closely, I ended up with these two. Now my next thing is to choose the colors I will mix with my greens to tone them down and make them more natural looking and close to earthy tones, and for me almost always these colors are yellow ochre and brown. So I also took these two out. And that's all we're going to need for the rest of the video. When I have a limited palette, I always take out my colors and place them near me so I don't get confused by looking over and over again at colors I'm not going to use. So I will now place my colors as they are straight from the tube. As you can see, even though I chose the most muted in my opinion colors, they are still quite vibrant and saturated, and maybe you're okay with it and this is what you're actually looking for in your colors. But now let me show you what I would do. I am grabbing a tiny dot of browns and green and spreading. Do you see the difference? I really hope the camera catches the two different tones. The green still has its hues and basic color, but now it is more muted and I personally love this look. The same I will do with yellow ochre. Again, the same result, and I will repeat everything with the other green. I truly hope you can see the difference between the greens we mixed and the originals. And I love to use brown because it still keeps all the elements of the colors without making them muddy, something a black color would do. This small mixing process for me makes such a huge difference. And now moving to our leaves. Before we create our full painting, I wanted to showcase a few key points. Today's leaves are going to have curves around their outline to make them more interesting and fluffy. Then pay attention to the tip that will have a turning little flip to give dimension and depth. And lastly, for the leaf body, we will have these vertical lines going from top to bottom for the leaf detail. And now that we have explained everything, you're ready to start your journey challenge and actually paint the most beautiful green leaves you have ever painted and have a beautiful piece of art to hang on your wall. In this painting, we will start our base sketch without any symmetry grid, since this is a more flowy design, but still follow my steps and you will do great. The first thing that will lead our drawing is the branch, where all the leaves will be on. I am starting it off more to the right so I can make it go up on the left. I added a small connecting branch on the right and then I start placing the leaves. You can't really go wrong with this, so don't be afraid to cover parts of the branch or make the leaves overlap one another, since this will give dimension and flow to your art piece. I personally love curves, so I made my leaves follow the branch but then make a curve to the right top. Adding a few smaller ones as complementary pieces and then doing all the body lines for each leaf. Moving on to the coloring part, step 1 is adding a thin layer of color as our base on all our leaves and to the branch. Using a mixture of the greens we talked about in the technique explanation, the same 4 colors, deep yellow greens for the leaves and brown for the branch. Now with a much darker green I start adding all the lines, all the veins of each leaf, and they are vertical lines going from the bottom to the top of each leaf, all meeting at its point. different values, darker and lighter versions of your colors to give depth. For all the smaller leaves, I just filled them in completely to give contrast. Finishing off, you can add any more color in the places you feel it is needed to bring back some saturation and vibrancy to your painting. Once again, I really hope you enjoyed this, and you know I really love to see your creations, so make sure to share them with me on Instagram under the hashtag #MyDesignJourney. Thank you so much for being here and following this design journey that it is all about being inspired by nature and just being creative.